Okay, so we call the meeting to order. I have 6:01, so would seem that we have two guests. We've got TRI, and we have an iPad that we could let in if they want to identify themselves, but otherwise we can't let them in without identification.
Sorry, Bruce. I did admit iPad into the meeting, but
Okay.
maybe they could identify themselves for the record.
I would say not. Okay, we have Todd. We have Todd on. All right. So I guess I go to TMI or TRI, sorry, to see if he has any comments for things that are not on this agenda.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you now.
No, I'm all set. I'll punch in I'll video on and raise if I have any questions.
Okay, just so you know, Beverly's email will be taken up under correspondence later on in this meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so you might want to hold on to that to at least that long.
What's that now? Her email?
Her email. I'm
Okay.
going to put it in under correspondence.
All right. I'm going to mute and just, if I speak, I'll come on and raise my hand.
Okay,
Yep. Thank you.
you got it. So we have several meetings of minutes to go through here. So I guess we'll start with the very first one, which was January 28th. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the January 28th minutes? Okay. Do I have a motion on the January 28th minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the January 28th meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussions on that? Seeing there is none, I'll put it to a vote. Zell, what's your pleasure?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
Gordon Cornell?
I abstain. I was not present.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that. Ron
Yeah,
and Paul, you would have to sustain as well.
Correct.
Did I miss anybody? I guess not. Okay. So the minutes are approved for the January 28th meeting. And that was a long one. There's a couple pages worth there. Okay, moving on to the February 3rd. That was a work session, more or less. That's when you guys discussed how you wanted to go about and run the Tri-Town meeting. Do I have a motion on that, on those minutes?
I will make a motion to approve February 3rd meeting minutes.
Does anybody second that?
Second.
Is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing there is none, I will call for a vote. Zell,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Ronnie,
aye.
Paul,
I'll abstain because I really didn't get a chance to study them. Sorry.
okay. Skip,
Aye.
and I will abstain as well because I wasn't present for that meeting. Moving on to the next one. February 11th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion on those minutes?
I will make the motion to approve February 11th meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Yeah,
Okay. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, seeing there is none, I will call for a vote. Zell,
Aye.
Walter,
I'm going to abstain for the moment because I didn't read them. I didn't see that one.
Okay. Ron,
yeah,
Skip,
Aye.
Paul,
Same as last time. I'm sorry, I did not review them in detail, so I have to abstain.
okay. The chair will accept the minutes as they're written. Okay, that takes care of minutes. Busy month. Okay, so next on the agenda was under old businesses, discussing the fiscal year. As you know, Walter wanted me or Skip to pass that along to Patrick for his review of the verbiage and the wording that we're going to be putting in. We'll have the towns put into the warrants to change that in a local agreement for the fiscal year. At this time, it's in Patrick's hands. And I believe I got kicked back a email that he is out of the country once more for this week. So that is where that stands at the moment from my aspect. Does anybody else have anything they want to discuss or add to that?
Walter has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Walt. Yes.
When we get, depending upon what Patrick says, I would suggest that we strike the last sentence about the fiscal year where I put in that forward going, if two towns or more change their fiscal year, that this board can vote, is instructed basically to vote to match that. I think that there are some number of people who believe that that they want the towns to have very a lot of authority over us, and so there'll be some resistance to delegating that responsibility, even though it's kind of a it's a non-issue. But because these things are going up in front of town meeting, the less controversial things you put the more controversial things you put up for people to nitpick, the longer the approval and debate and discussion process. So I'll put that in writing when we go to vote on the warrant articles prior to submission. If that, so I will propose that. You guys can vote it down, but
I did, as you saw, Walt put in there some urgency to that so that he will hopefully expedite that for us.
yeah, I hope so.
Any other comment on that line? No. No comments on item number 6? Or 5, sorry, it's number 5. Okay. Moving on to item number 6. Discussion of a safety inspection for the upper section. What's your pleasure on that? Yes, Al.
I wonder if perhaps we should table this until after our next workshop about what direction we're going with the project. It feels like, we'd sort of tabled it because knowing how it sort of relates to the project, it might make sense to wait, but it's just, I don't know if it makes sense to act on it till we kind of know what we're doing with that project.
Do I have a second on that motion to table it?
Yes.
Okay. So Zal, you are voting in favor to table that?
I am, yes.
Paul? You're muted, Paul.
Sorry about that. I vote against.
Okay. Walter,
I vote to table.
vote to table. Ron,
table,
Skip,
Table.
and the chair will vote to table as well. Okay, Skip has forwarded us a scrap dog composting contract for the upcoming year or years. Like you guys with the minutes, I did not get a chance to study that in depth. But if I have a motion to move forward with this item, then we can discuss it.
I haven't read it either.
Okay. Has anybody else not read it?
It's identical to the one you signed earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask. Is it the same, is it basically the same contract as before? It is, okay.
It is.
I read it. And I think that, whoops, I'm muted.
No, you're on.
You're on.
You're muted now.
Yeah, there we go. I'll get it down. I read it and it appears there's some indication that we're entitled to get buckets of composted matter, which could either be sold or given away to our customers. Did I misinterpret that? I thought that was in part of the document. And then I went and looked at their website. It's quite an undertaking they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Maybe we could use it when we do the landscaping along the road that we have to do. We
Mhm.
could use it for that, or I don't know how much we get, but exactly, but I think
I don't
that's a
think
good
we get
idea.
any.
Sorry, Heather?
I think it's for the subscribers, not for us,
Oh,
Right.
if I understand it correctly.
Okay.
I see.
That's how I understood the previous contract, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. They bring in the raw waste and it gets composted and they're entitled to a few buckets or whatever of composted material.
As a subscriber.
Lynn,
I just had a quick question. Does this have anything to do with the PFAS or whatever it is that has been having in the sludge that's in Maine news at this time, going on to the farms and stuff? Is there any kind of toxic material that's in this composted material?
I don't believe so. I can't say that 100% sure because how that works is you bring in your table scraps and food, biodegradable stuff, and it's put in that bin and they compost that. Now, how they compost that, I have no real idea. So they could do something that may not be kosher. I'm not 100% certain of that. To my knowledge, I would have to say no, but I can't say 100% certainty.
I'll stick with my own compost.
If you go to their webs, oops, I'm muted.
No, you're good.
You're good, you're good.
Again, it doesn't light up when I'm talking. If you go to their website, it's a pretty extensive website for a small operation and they explain the whole process.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We've had them for a little over a year over there and it seems to have been working out pretty well and the public seems to be happy with it. I'm not sure that, people are taking a full advantage of it that they could, but they do seem, the ones that are using it do seem to be happy and if Scrap Dogs is trying to grow their business, so.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
They're
welcome.
supposed to be 100% organic.
I see Walt's hands up.
Yeah, I can't find my copy right now, but the term is not specified. So what do we think about that?
Well, when I contacted him, he wanted to know if he was interested in a 2-year contract and I couldn't really give him an answer because I can't speak for the board as a whole. I says he could put forth one. I kind of offered him to put forth a 1 year and a 2 year. And then we could pick and choose at that point. But I think he's open to a 2 year if that's what the board wants to do. Any thoughts on that?
Well, personally, I see no reason not to do 2 years because if we do a 1 year, they might find some more lucrative towns to deal with and end up not wanting to renew after the first year.
Yeah, that could be, but I
And
kind
do
of,
think
yes, Walt.
well, I'll tell you what, I'll make a motion to engage in the Scrap Dogs in the Scrap Dogs contract for a 2-year term.
So motion has been made to engage with Scrap Dog's contract for 2 years. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion on that before I call for a vote? No? Zell, what's your pleasure?
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Skip,
Aye.
and I will vote for it as well. Okay, last item on the old business. Has any progress been made or discussions been done on the website?
Yes, I started a
Yes.
proposal. I've reviewed some of the other websites for the local transfer stations, like Midcoast and Tri-County. I'm coming up. I've also called Pope Memorial. I'm waiting a call back for somebody who can talk to me about it, trying to get how much money they've gotten annually for the past few years, and to see if they wanted to have a link and a page on our website, you know, explaining what they do, how much they get, da, 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 da. The girl I talked to, Jackie, said that she thought it was a really good idea, but she wasn't authorized to make such decisions. So I'm waiting for a call back from them. I have started to write the proposal, which hopefully I'll have it somewhat near done for you guys to look over and give me suggestions.
Okay.
By the March meeting.
The only thing right at the top of my head, I would like to see on there is somewhere on that page, a block where we can do announcements, maybe quick announcements, something that comes up in a hurry, like closures.
That would be on the homepage anyway.
Okay. Walt, I saw you blink just a short while ago. Did you have a question or comment?
No.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on that? Okay, so you want to table that until next month when Heather's got a proposal? Sound
Yeah.
agreeable?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
sounds good.
All right, table to next month. That will be under old business once again. Okay, seems to be we've been pretty busy on just about everything and anything, except for personnel. So, but nevertheless, is there anything from the personnel committee?
John's back with us and healthy.
Good deal.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody knows, and Dave's back from vacation, but other than that, I can't think of anything. Zal?
No, how did the Deborah's daughter work out?
She never came in,
Oh,
I don't believe.
so,
No, she didn't.
okay, so she wasn't needed then?
No.
Great, well, it's great to know she might be available if we need her. Is she officially on payroll now? So if she does, it's all set up?
No,
Okay,
No.
she never came in and filled out the information. So
okay,
Okay.
no, that makes sense.
Hey, Walt, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just want Skip to know that I am on that committee supposedly.
Oh,
So-
I'm sorry, I've forgotten about that change.
Well, now that you get your hand up, Walt, have you got any comments on that?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Nothing else from the personnel committee?
No.
Okay. Renovation updates, I guess we'll bypass that somewhat because we've all been involved with it. We've all been to the meetings. We all know what's going on up to this point. So there's nothing I can add to it or anybody else on that committee can add to that. So other than that, we do have tentatively another meeting.
Hey, Bruce,
Yes.
when you're done talking, I'd like to talk.
Yeah, I'm pretty much covered. Like I said, there's nothing more I can add to it. So go for it.
So did anybody read the email I sent out a couple hours ago, or has anybody not read it? In which case I'll read it. Zell, have you read it? Walter, have you read it?
I did read
yeah.
it.
Yeah, bye.
I'm sorry, Walter, did you read it?
did. I actually sent you a response on one item.
Okay, so you read it. Okay. How about Skip, Ron?
Yeah, I read it.
I read it.
Okay, so how about we discuss some of that? I think, let's see it. Oh, Try. Is that Scott? Is Scott Try?
Is either Scott or
So-
Beverly.
Scott or Beverly? Okay. So let me, nobody has any comments? Some of the things that were said last night, I checked out and it's not the case. Anybody have any comment about the designs that are down that solve probably the water problem? They solve the issue of wanting a closed building. They allow us to bring this thing in under budget instead of over budget. Is you all just want to not deal with it, or? Okay,
Maybe
go
Paul,
ahead.
it would be helpful for you to read it, just for anyone from the public who hasn't read the email. Do you want to just
Okay.
kind of, just so everyone knows what was in the
Okay,
email?
Let me all send, let me pull it up. Okay, here we go. Fellow board members, I reviewed my notes and thoughts after last night's meeting and followed up with some further research today. I share the following facts and ideas as part of the board's dialogue on moving forward. Number one, Chris No Deal offered, and that was at the beginning, offered the one option. That one option was to upgrade the existing facility. When asked to elaborate on that option, he said the retaining wall, and I'm the one that asked him to elaborate, he said the retaining wall needed some minor work, but things overall were generally okay. Of course, that didn't include the equipment and the infrastructure, which would be part of the upgrade. The infrastructure meaning a new house and new electrical wiring and fences, et cetera. So I'm kind of adding a better explanation for the people that aren't on our board. Number two, it was stated that it's too close to the road. That was the one objection I heard when Bruce asked for a comment from Skip. So my response is, for 40 years, it has not been too close to the road from both an operational or a safety standpoint. I asked Scott Johnson and he concurs. He agrees with my sense of this. And so today I went and I watched a pickup, a number one, by one of Scott's employees, and it doesn't even stick into the roadway. The whole thing took 15 minutes. And it's my understanding most of them occur at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I took a picture. That picture is attached to this email. Number three, I spoke with Chris Donlin, the manager of the Rockland Transfer Station this morning, and he said that there is no problem sending our that was typo, our commercial haulers his way during a rebuild of the existing facility if we take that route. As Chris said, we're all in this together and he's glad to help out. I didn't raise and I didn't hear anything about any kind of sort of bad blood. So number four, I spoke with Todd Hager this morning as well. And we all know, for those who aren't on the board or familiar, Todd is the fellow who supplies our equipment, custom manufactures and installs the trash chutes. He told me he can design and install an enclosure on our existing facility like the Harpswell structure. He would design and build it to meet our specific requirements. And that's very important. He was under previous specifications that he was given were contradicted by what we told him last night about the rear loading garbage trucks. And so he would, as you remember, he said, we got to do a 1/4-inch steel. The hydraulic pumps and the electrical equipment would be inside the building on a upgrade. And so they would have a much increased lifespan and a reduced operating expenses. I sent 3 PDFs that he forwarded to me of that building that he designed. It would be pretty much of that nature. Number 5, we all received an email from Beverly St. Clair, and you already brought that up, so I don't need to finish that. And the last one, Walter has now said that he has a different definition of dead from the way I interpreted it, you know, each to their own. So, and I want to be really clear, and I underline this. It's obvious that there were no and have been no ill intentions on anyone's part, and the hard work and effort invested by you all in this project were honest and sincere. That being said, it doesn't make sense to avoid, and I'll even editorialize, it doesn't make sense to stick our head in the sand and at all costs avoid an open and frank discussion of the viable and affordable alternatives. This project, nor does it honor the oath we all took, Mr. K there, we all took to serve the citizens of our 3 towns. That's our mission, doing the best we can for our 3 towns. That's it. That was my thing. And to skip over it and say there's nothing to discuss, I take umbrage with that. And I think that we should have a discussion. And I think that the other 4 or 5 members should have some input as to your true belief as to how you're going to pull off or continue plowing ahead with a project that, after listening to and watching last night's attempts at to whinny down or to cut off this and not the doors, and you know, I mean, and maybe go to vinyl siding. It was embarrassing. What, as a contractor, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but I kept watching the facial expressions and the body language of the 2 contractors. I'm going to be surprised at hearing, and especially when they were told that any new equipment from our compact supplier, that they wouldn't get to put it through them. I think that maybe they won't, but I wouldn't be surprised if you hear from them at some point in the near future and they just say, hey, we've got a busy schedule this summer, we're going to take a pass. This has not been handled, and it's not being handled going forward the way professional contractors and engineers expect. And I've tried to guide you to that, and all I got was tonight, nobody even wants to discuss this. So I'm done. I leave it open for comment to the rest of you. Thank you for listening.
Bill, I saw your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to clarify. I just thought it would be helpful for everyone who hadn't read the email to hear the points. So if people wanted to weigh in on the items, I guess, you know, I read over it and I think it was interesting to see those cross sections from Todd Hager in number 4. I thought the suggestion was made that we should go look at that facility at the meeting last night. I think, you know, many of these items, the comment about too close to the road, just in number 2, I believe that was Chris that said he felt that that facility was too close to the road. Is that correct? Is that who said that?
Levi did.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Skip. So Skip said that. 40 years. I don't believe the facility's been open for 40 years. So I just want to understand all these points. I just had some questions when I was reading through it myself.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 31 years.
Yeah, okay, so roughly, yeah, that's how long the facility's been open. But I think, I mean, obviously, as we've all discussed, we don't have the money right now to do the project as is. And so I think that's why we had that workshop last night, and the engineer and the contractor are going to look at the project and come back to us next Thursday. But I think it was helpful for, you have a conversation with Chris Donlin about that. It seems like obviously, there's some potential there for that. I don't know. Those are some of my thoughts. I don't want to do all the talking. I'll let other people talk.
Lynn,
I just wanted to know the safety on the road. Have there been accidents? Have there been problems in the past? Is that why their concern is, or is it just trying to be extra safe?
Skip, you go over there a lot. Do you want to field that question?
Yeah, I've watched those cans for years. Yeah, it's true. It doesn't stick out in the road, but it's also true. It's really tight over there.
Gotcha.
Um,
And I also want to say that I, as a citizen, I so appreciate the work that you guys have put into this. It's obvious how much effort has been put in to make a really outstanding and first class and first rate facility. And I think if things had chugged along as they did, and we didn't have a COVID monkey wrench thrown into all of our lives at every aspect of it, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. But now we're here, and I think that we kind of have to just, face what's on the table at this time. That's my only real comment, other than I really, really support you guys. I think you're doing like any of us who volunteer for these positions. It's a thankless job, and there's always somebody that's not happy. So I appreciate you very much.
Before I move on to anybody else, I really want to thank you for that comment, because lots of times we hear a lot of negativity and never very good stuff at times. And I want to say, at least on my behalf, and I'm sure for the rest of the board, we really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have a comment on what we're discussing? Yes, Lauren.
I'd like to echo Lynn's points as well. As a member of a few different committees and boards and nonprofits and lots of things, to have a collective vision of a common goal is so important, and no one person can have all the strengths and talents to pull that off. It takes every individual coming forth with what they have to offer, their experiences and backgrounds, to really make that work. To Paul's email, it takes tremendous due diligence on behalf of a single board member, or not just a single, but to Paul's email, to put that much effort and resource or research into a project, of a really significant expenditure to all of our communities. And that was separately, as an Owl's Head resident and a taxpayer, I truly appreciate that, and that he's bringing these concerns to all of you at a time when more and more residents are really wanting transparency and to better understand the full process completely of different decisions that our communities individually and as a whole community makes. That's really valuable. So thank you, Paul, and thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? One more time. Anybody else want to comment on that?
Well, let's calibrate.
Okay, well,
From last night, there was a sense of the board, but did we actually vote on the go-do to Skip to Chris and BNC?
can you run that by me one more time, Walt?
We have a set of action items for Chris and BNC that was referred to as the sense of the board last night, but I'm not sure that we voted on it. And if that's the case, if I missed that, that's fine. If not, let's vote on that action.
Okay.
And what that action says is that they're going to present us with cost reduction compromises on the current design.
Right.
And when they do that, then we have to decide whether we like that or not.
Right,
Paul is suggesting almost a clean sheet of paper. And while I respect his opinions and some of the points that he's made, the one thing that's missing from all that is the kind of detail that we have in the voluminous documentation that CES has prepared over the last 3 or 4 years. So we have that, and then we have Paul and his expertise and his what about this, what about that, but there's nothing for me to get my arms around. So when I make an alternative proposal in front of my select board, because I don't like a decision or an expenditure, I come in with an alternative that is costed out and has some substance. So I haven't heard that level of specificity and substance and any of these alternatives, other than some of them sound like a good idea. So my feeling is I move that we formalize the action from last night, that BNC and CES are going to go forward with a series of possible cost reductions to get us down to our what I consider to be our funding envelope, which is about $1,078,000.
okay. So to clarify, Walt, I believe under a work session category, we really can't vote on anything. It's more of a work session to get stuff in line for an upcoming.
You're right. You're right.
So
we can vote on things tonight.
Right, so we can do that tonight, but we can have a consensus on what direction we want to head in that work session, but we just couldn't vote on it. So we can formalize that tonight. But another thing, I don't know if this is right or wrong. I'm just spitballing this. So don't jump down my throat if you think I'm wrong. But notoriously, I was working within the city over the years. A department head usually can't make those kind of decisions on their own. Generally, you can have a discussion with a department head and they take that to the city council and they put that proposal forth to the city council, and the city council can make that decision whether they want to enter into that agreement or not, whether it be long-term or short-term. And generally the city council has an input of what those fees are going to be. And usually the politics within the city of Rockland, and they all differ from different town to town, but usually the citizens of that community have a right to have a say if they even want to entertain taking our refuge for even 3 months. So with that said, I'm not sure that what Chris told you was totally accurate. It might have been meaningfully be accurate, but I'm not sure that it's 100%. And I could be totally wrong. It's a thought. The problem with having board members going upon themselves and conducting business on the behalf of the board, these questions we're not able to put them forth at the time. This would have been one of the questions I would have had for him. Do you really have the authority to do this? And he could answer that one way or the other. Another incident similar to this that I witnessed just last year in March was when another board member from another town went about and conducted experiments and interviews, and both the lawyer for the town and our lawyer told them that they couldn't do that. That was a violation of a state statute, and that individual could have been removed from having any say over that project in any vote. Do you remember that, Zell?
If you're referring to my town, I guess I should. Yeah.
So again, I got to caution board members from going out and doing this. I mean, it's well-meaning and all that, but there are rules and regulations that prohibits this. And there's logical explanations and reasons for this. So again, I got to caution you in doing that. So I guess that's all I got to say about that tonight. It's open to anybody else to have a discussion. If there's no more discussion on that, I will call for a vote to formalize.
I want to respond to both your statement and to Walter's statement.
Okay.
This is the first time, although I've raised it for over a month to discuss this. This was the first time we've discussed it at all. And Bruce, you were ready to just move right on and without discussing it. And it wasn't until I interjected that I wanted to discuss it. And thank you, Zell, for asking me to read it. So we've opened it up so nobody can say they haven't heard the whole thing. Walter, I appreciate that you had an argument that you like to get your arms around something. Nobody's asked me or to do it. I've gotten my arms around it more and more. I also have 40 years of experience in doing budgetary estimates. So I actually have the details. Ask me to do it, give me the time, and I'll deliver you the details. And it'll be quite an interesting alternative opportunity to look into and put it back on. And I don't know, was it you, Walt, that asked who that was it the engineer that said it was too close to the road? No, it was Skip. And I think that I know that perhaps he just doesn't feel like talking tonight, but Scott's made it very clear that there's no problem there. There are some problems with the new design if you went with it with respect to moving big trucks around and having a traffic jam. But that's another discussion. But Walter, I'd be glad to, if the board wants me to put together a more formal presentation, a look back at what I've written already, I'll be glad to move it further so you have enough information to go to your board and think about it after this board's decided. And I bring one more thing up. Zell, you were the one at the presentation that said to the boards, to all three town counts, all three select boards, we ask your guidance. And all I see is nobody asking any guidance. Even last night, jokingly telling the select people from Thomaston that, and had them say, well, we're just watching it so that they weren't violating any, any statutes with respect to meeting outside an official meeting. And I'm going to close with one thing that I decided not to make an issue about, but the statute, I believe is 308, Maine law statute 308 clearly defines the process for an executive session. The executive session you called violated at least 3 subchapters of statute 308. I've said nothing, you ought to read it. And the next time you decide to have something like that, you ought to follow the rules, because somebody other than me might call you to the carpet and say, you can't do this, and now you have to face the consequences. And I think that I just let it go. And even your attorney did a out of context email afterward, and he should have come in and expressed it to everybody. So I'll leave it at that. There is one other thing I'd like to say, but I'm going to pass and just call it quits for the moment.
Okay, Walter, I see your hand up.
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
I did not jokingly ask Bill Hahn and Sandy for their input last night. I was very serious about asking if they had any observations. So I really resent that characterization if it was aimed at me, and I was the only one that asked them, that approached them.
It wasn't aimed at you, Walter. I didn't even know who said it. I only heard their responses, actually, that they were just there to listen. But I go back to what Zell asked, how do we get their guidance if we don't ask them for their guidance? We asked them for guidance at the meeting of all 3 towns, but how do we reach out to them individually and get some guidance? That's what was asked for, but I don't see it.
Well,
Zell, I saw your hand go up.
I guess.
So I'm a select board member, and I will tell you that I almost always cover where we're at with this, all things transfer station, in most of our meetings. To date, I have had no feedback from my board that says to do anything other than go forward with the project, but solve the budget problem.
So if I was to give you enough to go around, Walter, to get your arms around a viable alternative that would come in a few $100,000 under budget and give us a fully operating system that's safe and efficient, would you present that as an alternative? If
Oh.
after a discussion for their advice and their guidance?
I'm not sure, but because you're asking me to operate independently of this board, and I won't do that.
No, with that, it would be.
Hey, guys,
between the board.
I got Zelda had a hand up, so I really need to give her equal opportunity here. Zell,
Yeah, I was essentially going to say what Walter was saying, which is as a select board member, you know, we internally in Thomaston discuss this quite often. As you know, you all know, 46% of all the expenses at the facility fall on the Thomaston taxpayer. So we take it very seriously, this project. And so we do often talk about it, but I agree with Walter. I certainly am not going to take one individual board member's ideas about the project and present it to the select board without going through this board. Everything goes through this board. When we have meetings, board meetings, I think it's fabulous. The members from my select board want to come to those meetings. I know many of those members that can't make it will watch the meetings afterwards. And it's helpful as part of our discussion, but I think any suggestions about different directions for the project, I think should be discussed with this board. And I think, you know, I think they could have come up last night as well, since we had the engineer and the builder there. So, I mean, I think from my perspective, you know, we have money available. We need to do these upgrades. As we discussed earlier in the meeting, there's safety concerns. So I would personally like us to get to a point collectively so we can move forward and do the upgrades that are necessary. Exactly what scale they are, if there's a building, if there's a scale, if there's not a scale, these questions, I think they're still for our board to discuss. But I would really like to see that happen soon so we can address these safety concerns.
Skip, you got a comment on this?
Well, I'm staying reserved because I'm not that composed in a public meeting after I have to reserve myself a little bit. I take offense at Mr. Rosen operating outside of this board continuously and then questioning our executive session that actually had our attorney present. But I would like to say that I don't think this board is at a position that they want to scrap the project and start from scratch. That's why that meeting went in the direction that it went, so we could try to reduce the cost of the present plan. I don't think we're ready to scrap it and start over. And if that is the case, this project is going to be a long time in the coming. And I've been at it a long time as well as the rest of this board. And I don't think that we're ready to pull the plug and start over.
Ron, do you have a comment on this?
No, I don't, because I wasn't there and I didn't know what was said.
Well, do you have a comment on what's been said tonight?
Well, I think we should go ahead with what we're doing. We worked very hard on this. And right now it's getting ridiculous. Every time we do something, something else comes up, someone else comes up with another idea, and I think we've had enough.
Okay.
I have one last comment, and then I've heard multiple times that I'm operating outside the rules. I've read the bylaws, I've read the interlocal agreement, and I have not done a single thing that is in contradiction to the way we're supposed to operate. I would like to suggest that you all reread the bylaws and specifically focus on what it asks of the board members with respect to operating expenses and revenue generation, and see if that's the way the board is operating. Are we properly following the mandates that we accepted when we took this position that are detailed in the bylaws and the interlocal operating agreement? And I have no further comment. And if you all don't want to discuss this alternative until some point in the future or never, I'm fine. I'm not going to bring it up again.
Walt, your hands up.
Yeah. So you brought up the subject of guidance, Paul, and let me say that from my board, which was at the 3 select board meeting, the informational session, as well as being updated periodically over the last 3 or 4 years. And as recently as 2 nights ago, Bruce and I appeared before the Owl's Head Select Board. And guess what? The subject of the renovation came up and was discussed. And I know that the former chairman of Zell's board, chairman for 2 or 3 years, who was previously on our board and knows this project intimately, has not said word one in terms of guidance to do something different, nor has my board. And as in fact, the Owl's Head board the other night did not say, go back and take out a clean sheet of paper and start over. So they're at least they're providing guidance with silence, but also in the 3 select board meeting, I heard them pretty much endorsing the plan, but agita over the cost. And they made suggestions like, can you phase it out over time? Can you reduce the costs? And so to me, the guidance that we got from the 3 select boards was exactly what we're doing now. So to me, they're not stomping up and down and rattling the cages for us to do anything different than what we're doing now.
Okay, so I've had everybody have a chance to have an input on this, and this could go on for quite some more time. And we do need to move on. So the item at hand now is, do we take a vote to formalize a plan with the engineers and the construction company to follow through with ways to reduce the current, and I reiterate, the current plan moving forward? Is everybody clear on that? Do I have a second on that motion?
Yes.
Is it my motion?
Okay, your motion. And Gordon just spoke up to second it. So Zell, what's your thoughts?
Yes, I support that.
Paul?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Ronnie?
Yes.
Walt?
Yes.
Skip?
Yes.
The chair will go along with moving forward with the plan. That's 4, 1 abstained. Okay. Moving on.
Excuse me, Bruce.
Yes.
Forgive me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just a question, if I may, for Mr. Reitz. When your comment to the select board didn't have any negative thing to say, or they seem to be fine with it, as would leadership, if they're not presented with any other alternatives, they're believing that, like, okay, this is the best path to go, and not being privy to engineering and not really understanding the background of a certain thing. Not everyone's good with engineering and construction, all of the things. They're not going to know what questions to ask. They're relying on you as guidance and advisors to, this is what we see as being the best thing to do. Part 1. And the part 2 is, never in my experience have I ever found a contractor to be really motivated to come in with a lesser amount for the project they've been hired to execute. So just something to consider. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, the project as it stands was presented to 3 select boards in a joint meeting. The go-do from those 3 boards, and that the fact is that they're different cast of characters now, was go forward. So this board has been marching to those marching orders since 2018. And I don't recall any in-depth requests or comments about alternatives at that meeting, but I think there were some.
I also would state that, at least our board, and I know Walter's board, is very well aware of alternative plans out there. But they also understand the time sensitive for this. They know that this needs to get done. Costs are escalating rapidly. Contractors are hard to come by. They're getting busy. I too sat on one of Walter's selectmen's meetings one day, and I did witness them say that we need to get the project going and we need to get it up and running. And I have taken back from them their guidance is they like the project, they just don't like the price tag. If we had got this done at the $997,000 thing, they would have had no questions on this whatsoever. So really, the real issue is how do we bring this back to budget? And if I've just voted to go through with this plan to see if we can reduce this. I don't feel we've exhausted every avenue yet to warrant scrapping this plan entirely. I think we still can breathe some life into it, and we haven't exhausted those options yet. Lynn, did I see your hand go up?
Yes, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No problem.
You're very impassioned, and I really appreciate that. My only question is, you voted on this action right now. If you're unable to fulfill it within the budget, will you as a board consider other options at that time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is just, I was kind of disappointed last night that we didn't have a little more facts. I did, and with a phone conversation with the engineer, give him a pretty brief description where we were trying to head. So I was hoping they would have a little more definitive answers, but they did not. So Thursday night, hopefully they will. And if that doesn't get us where we want to be, then we have to go to plan. I don't know what it is. It could be E and F, G for that matter. But I mean, whatever it is, we got to go to another alternative. They look at getting rid of the scales. I don't know. We got to take this one step at a time. And we've been at this going on 6 years now, taking one step at a time and redundant, looking at everything. I mean, every last thing.
Yeah.
We're trying to spend your tax dollars extremely wisely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, Skip.
I just wanted to add something to Lauren and Walter's discussion. Walter didn't mention that his entire select board has served on this board. I believe Jeff and John both.
Plus the chairman of our budget committee,
Yeah,
who has a lot to say about these things.
right. Yeah.
And by the way, Lauren, you can please call me Walter, and I'll call you whatever you wish.
Fair. And just
Mr. Wrights makes me nervous.
apologies, and to Skip, right? Is that your name, not Gordon?
Yeah, Skip. Everybody
Okay.
calls me Skip.
If
I
you
was
want,
referring, sorry, I was referring just to the select board of Owl's Head. I haven't been privy to what's going on the Thomas and on the other sides. I need stunt doubles to do all of those things. So right now I'm just Owl's Head specific. But anyway, thank you.
Walter, if you want to share some really out of the box plan, I'd call it Plan Z. Why don't you let the rest of the board hear what the head of the Owl's Head Budget Committee got up and talked about putting us all out of business. Or Bruce, you were there as well as Lynn and Lauren.
Well, first of all, I mean, that's just one individual on a board. And again, I've learned in public life, you can't please everybody. There's always going to be opposition to something. And one's price tag versus somebody else's price tag, it's up to option and opinion. That was his opinion. I respect his opinion. I disagree with it. But again, when the fellow stands up in a board meeting and says he knows nothing about trash, all he knows is he puts it in a hopper and it disappears. I find it very difficult that somebody can start telling us the nuts and bolts of our operation.
He was just asking a question that Walter, what's your take on that?
Well, my take on it was, so let me bring people up to speed. So Bill George, who is on the budget committee in Owl's Head, who I met for the first time, had the budget workup that I did for presentation to the Owl's Head Select Board. You guys have all seen that. He made the point, his end point was that every citizen, every homeowner should contract with a hauler, and that there be no transfer station, and that and that got everybody's attention. I think he figured out that with the current budget, the budget that he had in his hand, that people were citizens, and this might have been just Owl's Head he was referring to, are going to pay $368 a year for the transfer station, and that wouldn't they be better served if they independently hired somebody to pick up their trash and take it to Rockland or Hamden or Echo, Maine. There's some ins and outs about that, not the least of which being the statute, which puts us in business to begin with. But my point, to follow up on what Bill said, is that that South Thomaston, at least because I'm intimately familiar with its finances, we have a fire department, an ambulance service, and a solid waste disposal operation. None of them are sustainable over the long run, given our population and the economics of our population. And that is something that all three of our towns are going to wrestle with. They are already. The question is, what do you do about it? So Bill George, that was his suggestion about what to do about it. The fact of the matter, though, is that, as I pointed out to the select board, is that we exist because of the towns creating us through the interlocal agreement. Our role in life is to execute the terms and conditions and the go-do from the interlocal agreement. That's where guidance or opinions from the select board are important. And I get more than most because, as Skip points out, my colleagues all sat in my chair. As a matter of fact, I think Jeff was probably chair of the corporation at one point. Am I right about that?
He was.
Yeah. So, I have two plus budget committee experts on all things transfer station that I sit with every month. Anyhow, so Bill was out of the box and not a particularly crazy thought. Didn't seem to resonate with most of the audience, however.
Okay, so we've gone on with this and it's getting late and we do have a considerable lot of items, so this probably will get tabled to another day. So we have an annual audit.
Okay, we voted. Okay, never mind.
We're all set.
I lost track of where we are.
That's why I keep checking them off. So the annual audit is up and due. I believe, Heather, the cost is $3,000 this year to have that audit. Oh, look, she's trying to hit us. I get knuckles coming at me.
No, it's 3,400.
3,400. What did we budget?
3,400.
Perfect. We got that right. So we have to vote to authorize to spend that $3,500 on a audit. Do I have a motion?
I move to authorize the annual audit.
Do I have a second?
Yep.
Do I have any further discussion on this? Seeing there is none, I will call for a vote. Zell,
There's,
Oh, sorry.
I have a discussion item.
on the audit?
Yeah. So normally, we get the audit in concert with our fiscal year of January to December. That's about to change. So one thing we need from Mindy is an audit ahead of time, if possible. I don't think it's mandatory, but I think we should see if she can do that before the 3 town meetings.
Or at least before the second one. Yours is coming right up, Walt. Yours is in March.
No, we're June. We changed to June. We're June
Okay,
14th.
good. Awesome, good. I was not aware of that. Perfect. So I'm gonna go back to the vote if there's no other further comment on audit. One last time. Going once, going twice. You have a comment?
Yeah, how do we go about doing what Walter just mentioned?
I would assume that we're just gonna authorize, because we have to have a 2021 audit.
Right.
And the books are closed for that year. So she can go ahead and do that. I think he just wants it ready and done for their selectmen's meeting.
Oh, I got you.
And then we're gonna have to move on with another budget. So, I mean, she may possibly have to do a short audit for the few months that we were into this year. Because
You
we are
still
going,
have to do a 6-month audit.
right. But
Yeah.
this is for the annual audit right now for 12 months
Right.
of
The
2021.
2021.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha.
One more time. Going once, going twice. Zell, what's your pleasure?
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ronnie,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Skip,
Aye.
I as well. Mindy will now authorize to do an audit. Okay, has everybody had a chance to read the facility manager's report?
Yes.
Is there any discussion on that report?
I just had a question. When it said John out, will report next month on items sold. Is that because John does the tally, or is that just because? I just wasn't sure what that meant.
I believe he does.
Okay, so that,
John reconciles those.
okay,
Yes.
that makes sense. Okay, and so because John was out, okay, thank you.
Any other comments on the facility manager's report? No?
No.
Pretty good? All right. Moving on to the bookkeeper's report. Did everybody have a chance to review that? Heather, would you like to add anything to your report?
No, I don't think so.
No, you don't think so? Any comment on it?
I will make a motion to authorize Heather to reimburse David McNeil for the amount of $239.79.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Does anybody have any comments or discussion on that item?
Well,
See-
I have one. I have David's social security number, but I need his date of birth in order to get him his credit card.
But can you
I
handle
forgot
that?
all about it, sorry.
Or even Heather for that matter?
Yeah.
Any other discussions on that item? All right, seeing there is none, what's your pleasure, Zell?
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Skip,
Aye.
I as well. Any other discussion on the bookkeeper?
I will make a motion to authorize Heather to sign for online services, email billing and online payments with Central Maine Power and Consolidated Communications.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Yep.
All right, is there a discussion on that? No? What's your pleasure, Zell?
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Skip,
Aye.
I as well. Still on the bookkeeper's report. Anything else?
Heather and I both did cuts at the 6-month budget. Can we discuss that under item 17 or now?
How about 17? That might take a
Okay.
little bit. All right, so how about signed warrants? Everybody get a chance to sign the warrant? Okay. So the warrant has been signed. Go for it.
Move to accept.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Oh boy, you got a second and a third. Does anybody care to discuss the warrants?
It's the first time in my memory that all six of us have signed.
It's been a while. Seeing there is no discussion, what's your pleasure, Zell?
Aye.
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Skip,
Aye.
I as well. Okay, moving down on correspondence, and to my knowledge, there is only one. And that would be from Beverly St. Clair. You've all had a chance to read it, I believe. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
Okay, she's had some points in there and she had some questions, and I would entertain anybody that wants to answer some of those questions and comments. Anybody at all?
I think I
Well-
asked this once before, and that is the scale only for overweight?
Skip, you had a comment on that once before about the scales.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just overweight, it's controlling the weight in general. They could also keep a light one from going out, which also would cost us money. I think that we proved keeping a tally of the weight really was beneficial to us. We had that program in place for quite some time.
Couple of years, or a little over a couple of years.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to respond to her email? Yes, El.
I was just thinking about it a little bit in terms of the scale, and I was wondering if we would ever consider letting other people use it as a revenue source for the facility. Just thinking about how it would get used. I know there's limited ones in the community, so. I mean, we don't have to vote on that, but I was just thinking like in terms of to keep the scale on the project or not to keep in the scale on the project. I think the fact we've already purchased it is a pretty compelling reason for me personally to keep it, but also if we on days, especially when we're closed, if people wanted to use it, perhaps we could charge for that.
I think it's a good idea myself.
Yeah.
Skip would
sense.
use it, right?
You know, on
There's
certain
been
days
plenty of
throughout the week,
times I've needed a scale.
certain days throughout the week, it's pretty quiet over there, especially during the weekday. And that would be more apt to be the time somebody would need to be weighed. So again, that's probably in the future, something the board could hash over and discuss and see if we can generate a little revenue to help pay for its maintenance. I'm gonna call on TRI if they can turn the mic on and trying to jump in there, because if We haven't answered your question. Now's the time.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Beverly had to step out.
Okay.
I think it was just talking point. I will say, I think Zell's got a good revenue source, but I don't know, using a public scale in your facility is going to be quite an expense and quite a disaster, I think. But that's just a talking point. Beverly just wanted to bring that up. I think in the next few months, some of that topic, not so much on the scale, but on some other things will probably, arise as you guys decide what you're doing going forward.
Yeah, do you know, you covered most of what you wanted to know tonight?
Yes. Yep.
Just want you to go away happy.
What's that?
I just want you to go away happy. No,
Well, I don't know if, I mean, I wouldn't say I'd go away happy, Bruce, but I think there's a lot more. Now that you brought it up, I guess I'll try to keep my, as Skip would say, I'll try to keep my danger down. I really think that, I've been sitting here and I said, I'm not going to say nothing. But I listened to your meeting last night, and I'm not throwing your words at you, Bruce, so don't get mad at me, Skip, anyone else. But I do really, is a little frustrated with the fact that you, and don't think I'm protecting Paul. Paul's a big boy. He can protect himself just like we all can. To say Paul's a first-year person and he doesn't know the nuts and bolts and whatever, well, Zell hasn't been there that long herself. And I would say that you guys are like freshmen and rookies to me. I've been there ever since the place was open. And, I just think there's a lot more information out there. I'm not against your project. I've never been against your project. I appreciate you doing your work on it, but I do think there's a lot more information. And I'm not saying all Paul's ideas are special. I'm not saying all yours are, mine are, anyone's, but I think there's a lot more expertise and a lot more common sense that we could use over there, because space is a premium over there. There's not a lot of space. And, I've talked with Skip and, I've talked with you and Ronnie and whatever. And I just think you guys really want to look at it from the whole aspect. Instead of cheapening your project, take a deep look and see, and I'll just put one point and then I'm going to get off is the berm there. If you decide to put your scale there and whatever, what other than having the metal can there, that berm really is just a waste of your space. Get rid of it so you can do something else with it. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying move your scale. I'm not saying to move your building. If you move it over in the corner, all I'm saying is that berm just for the metal can really takes a lot of space. The ramp, the whole thing. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I mean, these are just the type of ideas that I've, over the time, maybe I haven't been articulate with them, whatever, but I don't think people have been willing to listen either. So all I would say is, and I would question, I'd like to ask you guys, where was the transfer station for the 3 towns before it moved to Buttermilk Lane?
It was,
Where?
we were using Rockland's facility.
Yeah, where was it?
It was, if you're talking Rockland's facility, it was on.
Nope. Where was it, Skip? On a temporary basis, where was it when they kicked us out because they went way up on our fees? Mill Creek. You know where Mill Creek is?
Yeah,
Huh?
I never used it.
So what I'm saying is, so when we talk about the history of it, that's down the end of Fish Street in Thomaston. David Taylor built it, same one that built the one over here. It's a public works guy. So there's a lot of people. Ron, you on?
What?
Oh, nothing. You just popped up. Sorry about that. So I won't bother you guys no more. You got a lot to do.
What happened to him? Lost him.
He didn't want to talk to me.
Scaring him away.
I don't think he really got to finish his point though.
No.
This project. Yeah, it keeps. Can you hear me?
I can now.
Mhm.
Yeah, it came up unstable under Ronnie.
Uh, Well, he's been known to be unstable.
Well, Skipper was talking a little slow there a few minutes ago, but I didn't notice the difference, so.
He did it again. I can sympathize with that. Okay, so what's the board's pleasure? I mean, we've heard from Scott. He said he was just about.
Are you there?
We are at the moment.
All right, well, I'll just be 1 second. So I guess I would just say is, you know, it's not gonna hurt to reach out to some people and, you know, get some ideas and, you know, just because we've all worked on stuff, we've all had to start from scratch. You know, there are a ton of ideas out there. You know, and I think the big thing is we've all sacrificed, whether we've been on the board or not, we've all sacrificed time, energy, money, thoughts, and whatever to get a facility that works for everybody. And I am glad, I'd like to ask you just before I leave this, I didn't watch the meeting totally last night. Have you decided that you're gonna look at hot top and that below? Is that what I understood?
I think that depends on what they come back with a plan and if we have any money left over. I mean, that's not an option off the table, but it's all budgetary driven.
Yeah, I thought one thing that came out of that meeting was if we can have it ready by June, we have potential to maybe combine it with some of the South Thomason paving and get a discounted rate. I see Walter's hands up. Maybe he wants to speak to that, but
I just saw it go up. Walter,
Well, and/or we can also budget for it in the new 12-month budget independently of the project. And to the extent that the economics back to the town would work, I would support that.
okay. So we all good with this discussion here so we can move on, or?
What's that?
I said, we all good with this discussion here so we
Yeah,
can move
I
on?
said-
or-
Yeah, no, I said, thank you, have a good night. Yeah, just put her in correspondence for right now.
Sure.
Whoops. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so any and all new business, and Walter had an item that he wanted to discuss. Oh, you can hand
oh,
up, Joe.
sorry. Yeah, no, I just had a quick correspondence thing. I didn't send this email to the board, but I'll send it along. I did get an email from a Thomason resident who had asked about paving the residential area, which is why I brought it up last night. I do think that we should strongly consider paving the whole area at the end of the project. I think, you know, there's some current concerns about it being difficult for people to walk around there and driving, and it would be more comfortable for the residents of our three towns to pave it. So I just wanted to add that. And I think if we reduce the project enough so we have money to pave it as part of the project, then we should consider that. If not, I like Walter's suggestion of planning for it, but I do think I just want to mention it was something that was asked. So that's it.
Before I move on to the last item on there, is there any other correspondence? I don't want to shut anybody off, but is there any correspondence? Okay. So moving on to any and all business before the board, and Walter had an item, so we're going to go with Walter, and then I have an item as well.
Actually, so Heather went and did in great detail a 6-month budget, but we got it late. So what I would suggest is everybody spend some time in the next couple of days looking at that. But Heather, if you can go through the highlights of what you pushed out or what you included in the 6-month budget, because if we go forward with this 6-month budget, then in April or March, we're going to have to sit down and do a 12-month budget. And one of the things that one of the learning lessons here is that in our our soon to be obsolete calendar year, to drop our budget on the three towns that have July 1 fiscal years, for us to do that on January 1st is not the right process. Even though the interlocal agreement and our bylaws say do that. So you'll notice in my revised article, I am saying that if we change our fiscal year, that we should submit to our budget to the towns, because we're going to be on the same fiscal year, in time for them to incorporate it into their budgets. You know, so that's a March or April at the latest for our annual budget. But Heather, could you just summarize, you know, what you've done, although you did document it anyway. So
Yeah, everybody should have it in their email anyway. Hopefully. All I did was I took, of course, the commercial haulers would have to be left in there as such because they won't be billed until January anyway. So that would be in the following budget. I did take most of the revenue and the expenses and cut it by 50%, except for the liability insurance, which I deleted because it's not due until July, which would go on the new budget. Workers' comp, I adjusted it to the actual amount that was paid in January to $5,556. I kept the $3,000 for the website in there. I also kept the $35 filing fee for the state. And I deleted the $50,000 for contingency. Currently, Owl's Head has paid February and January payments in the amount of $53,415.34. South Thomaston has currently paid January payment of $14,767.42. Thomaston has paid January payment of $26,469.83. With this 6-month budget that I came up with, which was a little bit different than what Walter had, doing all the adjustments that I just went through, the operating expense was $324,530 minus the zero contingency. The total facility expense would be the $324,530. Total revenue would be down to $17,350. The total balance then would be $307,180, giving a balance for Owl's Head of $79,867. South Thomaston would be at $81,403. Thomaston at $145,910, which was down from 50% of the budget for 2021. I can't remember how much it was down from that, but so the total due to it, with the adjusted amounts for the 6-month budget, Owl's Head would have a remaining balance of $26,451.66 for the 6 months. South Thomaston would have $66,635.58, and Thomaston would have $119,440.17 for the remainder of the 6 months. That good, Walter?
that's excellent. Well, you did great detailed work. I only, the one thing I'd suggest is I'd like everybody to take this. I think we should have another meeting just on this as soon as possible, because this is time is of the essence. And the reason for that is what I would propose is that we make the 6-month budgets assessment flat with last year. And that way, none of the 3 towns will go have a shortfall in the first 6 months. And the way we would fund that would be, we have $157,000 in contingency. And my calculation was that we would have to come up with 42,000 of that to fund to reduce the assessment for the first 6 months to what it was last year. Then what happens with the July 1st to June 30th, June 30, 2023, we pay ourselves back. So we're not, we are going to have the kind of the full assessment plus, because we're going to have another year, another year's worth of budget, but we are funding relief to the 3 towns for the unpleasant surprise that we laid on them on January 1st. But I think what everybody should do is digest this, and I would ask that we try to get together in the next week or so to see where that all of Heather's work is, which is excellent, and then see how we go about making the assessments flat for the first 6 months.
Walter,
Yep.
did you hear me when I said that the 6 month that I just did for this year was actually less than 6 months of last year?
Oh, no, I didn't hear that.
Not by much, but.
Problem
it is a little
solved.
bit lower.
That's great news.
Problem solved. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
You can throw away my spreadsheet.
I just,
Yes, sir.
so Thomaston's having our select board meeting on Monday, this coming Monday, so I will certainly present it to the select board on Monday. And in terms of how soon you wanted to have a meeting, are you thinking next week, Walter? Is that, or,
To me, that would be nice because it gets that off the table and behind us. We vote to approve the 6-month budget so we can move on to the 1-year budget.
okay, great, okay, so,
Heather, does that cause puts and takes unexpectedly for you?
Well, the only thing, if you want it next week, the only day I can do it is Friday.
Well, then let's push it out a week.
The only
We can-
day I can do it is Friday.
Good Friday, if that's not a problem with everybody.
Yeah, I just don't, I don't think waiting until the 4th Thursday in March is advisable here.
No, I mean, if next Friday works for everybody, that we can schedule that meeting that night.
March
Friday's
4th.
better for me.
What was that, Skip?
I said Friday works better for me.
Ron, is there an issue with that?
No, no, Friday's good.
That Friday, March the 4th,
Mhm.
works for me if it's at night.
Yeah, well, it would be. Paul, is there any conflict with that with you? Okay, I guess it's Friday, March 4th, 6 PM.
And is it a 3-town meeting? Is that what we're referring to it as? Or is it our meeting to vote on it?
Yeah, I think it's our
Budget.
meeting to vote on a
Our
6-month
meeting.
vote. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay,
are
so
we- Oh, sorry.
together twice again next week.
Yeah, and we are still planning on March 3rd doing the meeting, the follow-up meeting from yesterday.
We are, unless they're not ready.
Okay, great. We'll plan on that.
So is that all you guys wanted to cover?
Yeah.
Wasn't me, it was Walter.
All right, so I had one item I wanted to throw in there. It looks as though the in-person meetings might be coming back here shortly. And Zoom has been really nice because we can record the meetings really easily. But when we do finally get back to an in-person meeting, I think we should continue recording this. So maybe we should look into ways that we can do a video and audio recording of our meetings. Any thoughts? Yes, Elle.
If you want to come to the scary town of Thomaston, we can record them through our town hall streams.
And we have a new owl and all kinds of fancy
Oh,
stuff in
wow.
our community room, but what?
We'll have to go to South Thomaston because we do not have an owl in Thomaston. but-
I got to figure out how all that stuff works and whether Thursday night's available. So
Okay, yeah, I
stay
think,
tuned.
I believe, obviously Alice Ed records all theirs, so I don't know if they would allow us to use it or not. I mean, we could look into that. So we do have options then.
okay.
Yeah, because that one's upstairs in the,
Well, right now
Yeah.
downstairs at the moment.
they moved it.
Well, they did under the COVID situation. They've got more room downstairs. Like people could spread out, but I'm sure once the restrictions get lifted, they probably will move back upstairs. But we always did meet upstairs. The problem is we don't have a selectman on the board now, so there's nobody to unlock the door for us.
And I'm not the secretary.
And you're not the secretary, so. So it's something to think about and look into so that when we do finally get to meet in person again, we can have a way to continue the recordings.
I think that's a good idea.
Yes, Lauren.
Just sorry, it's a little jug handle here, just to go back to the transfer station project. Is there a breakdown of the funding sources for, like, is there an allocation breakdown for the funding sources that will go into the project? Is that available anywhere to people, like residents, citizens?
I'm not sure if the towns have them readily available, but we do. I mean, if you want us to email you a copy of that, we can.
No, that would be cool, because I'm new to this
Yeah.
particular thing. So forgive me if you guys have, already covered all of this, but like I said, for me, I have dogs the size of my house. If I could just, to have like a breakdown of where the money has come from to go into the budget for this project, that would be super helpful. And I think if it can be made public, I think it would be helpful to a lot of people to be more supportive of what you guys are, presenting.
Over the past year or so, it's been public. The town has had meetings to vote on funding this. Like I said, if you're new into this or you wasn't really into town politics, weren't paying attention, you probably wouldn't know, but essentially came from two sources. We got money back from PERC for the sale of our interest in PERC and some of the tipping fees reimbursements. That was the last final check. And I believe that came to, what was it, Walt, total for 3 towns?
600 and something thousand, wasn't it?
I'm sorry. I'll send Lauren, if you send me or give me your contact information.
I know that was out of the blue, so I didn't expect you to have like numbers off the top of your head. I was just.
Essentially,
It's very simple. We our equity position in the MRC got bought out. The MRC was the Municipal Review Committee that we were part of, and we seceded from them and went to Echo Maine. So basically our startup equity, for want of a better term, got returned to the 3 towns. And at their last town meetings or before, the 3 towns voted to turn that money over to us specifically for the renovation project. And it's 646,000-ish. I've worked that detail so many times that
Yeah, so it's
hey,
this is the
Thank you.
presentation we looked at the other evening. And so it's 698,296 from PERC and then 400,000 from our loan. So it's really those 2 sources.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so if there's nothing else to come before the board, I would entertain a motion.
I just have a really quick thing. I just wanted,
Yeah.
Skip and I talked about this, but one of our compactors lost the shrink wrap over the wind this week, so we're gonna have to re-shrink wrap that, so I just
Okay.
wanted everyone to know of that in case there's any questions. And I will make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
You.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You know.